歡迎大家翻到嚟呢個聚會嘅最後一次對談。頭先咧見到大家喺出面咧都同各位嘉賓傾得好開心，亦都應該識咗好多新朋友。可能咧又有一啲意念咧係諗住之後可以點樣行咧咁樣啦。咁所以咧我哋最後呢一節對談從零走到現在咧，就係講呢個萬事起頭難嘅呢個問題啦。今日講者咧就會同我哋分享佢哋由有諗法去到咧真係行出第一步個心路歷程係點嘅咧。事不宜遲，我哋咧邀請我哋今次嘅主持人創不同協作主席黃英琦女士 Ada， 有請 Ada。
Our last dialogue by the hill, starting from scratch, and now we are here, is about to start. Welcome our chair of Make a Difference Institute, Miss Ada Wong. Welcome, Ada.
好啦，大家好，我哋嚟到最後一個 panel 啦，各位山友，咁咧好多謝大家咧都係留守到最後喎。但係咧，聽完呢一節之後咧，咁我希望大家已經係會吸取足夠嘅養分咧，係咪自己都會蠢蠢欲動，係出去我哋嘅社區去做一啲嘢，去帶嚟一啲嘅 positive 啲嘅改變。咁咧就我負責主持最後呢一節啦。呢一節咧就係叫由零去到而家喎。咁其實係咩嚟嘅咧？我諗係同頭先嗰節咧有好強嘅一個呼應嘅。頭先第三節啦，大家覺得好精彩係嘛？係咪啊？都覺得好精彩，因為咧，我哋睇到兩位咧，佢哋唔單止係創業者，佢哋仲係睇到咧，係創業中間咧係有個創新嘅價值喺度。咁而呢個創新咧就係推動循環經濟啦，令到我哋香港嘅一啲嘅出產一啲嘅水果咧係能夠係俾到我哋更多人知道啦。咁呢一節咧，我哋係個對比強啲嘅。我哋有位外國嘅朋友啊，其實 Matt 咧嘅標誌咧係好國際化嘅。咁我哋今次咧除咗尋日阿 Louis 嚟啦，咁同埋仲有新加坡嘅 Serene 同我哋講嘢之外咧，今日咧我哋最後呢一節咧，咁咧就係有一位法國嘅朋友嘅。咁但係我想介紹到本地朋友上台先。咁咧就係本地朋友阿 Jorch， 佢已經係嚟咗啦。佢係嚟自 The Loop Hong Kong 嘅，一陣佢會話俾大家聽佢做乜嘢。咁請阿 Loop。請到 Loop 上嚟喎，請Josh 上嚟，係坐喺我隔離先。因為今日咧係我哋一個本地講者咧，我都有份係有呢個台仔可以坐上嚟呢度。好啦，咁咧然後跟住咧已經喺我哋嘅 Zoom 裏邊咧，大家見到佢哦。咁咧佢就係喺巴黎嘅，身在巴黎嘅 Stéphane Vincent。Bonjour，hello Stéphane，good morning，very welcome。Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it is Sunday morning for you, so it is not very civilized, but thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this, and we really appreciate your participation. 咁咧，我轉翻台啦。咁Stéphane咧，佢做一樣嘢咧，英文直譯咧就叫 The 27th Région。咁其實係咩嚟嘅咧？有啲似咧係一個大人版嘅 social lab 嘅，佢嘅合作嘅對象咧就係法國嘅各級政府。佢睇到政府係有啲咩政策嘅一個缺口，需要一啲嘅小實驗嘅時候咧，佢就會同佢合作，同公務員各層級嘅公務員合作。咁我就唔好代表佢講佢嘅嘢啦。所以我就先請佢去做一個分享先。So Stéphane, we would like to know what you do. With us here are many people, young people in particular from Hong Kong, and we also have online with us other participants, globally. So first of all, can you share with us what you do? Tell our participants here what has been keeping you so busy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ada, and thank you to all of you. I'm very proud and honored to be with you. So I will try to share my screen with you. Just tell me if you see it. Yeah? You see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So just in 3 minutes, a few explanations about la 27e Région. The initial idea came with this provocative assumption: why so many public policies are failures. For example, if you take social policies here in France, in some French region, especially in rural areas, only 50% of eligible people ask for welfare benefits, which means that they don't use their rights. This is what I call a failure in policies. And the assumption is maybe we could do better if we engage people in the policy design of it. What if we could design public policies with the people who are concerned and not just for them? So this is where we have started. It was in 2007. The idea came from a book. I was one of the co-writers of this book. We were a group of researchers. I'm a former civil servant, but there are other writers who were researchers, politicians, etc. And the book was about about transforming government. And the last chapter was called the 27th region. And the idea was to say, okay, we got 26 real regions in France, but what about the 27th? That would be an utopia where we could explore a new vision for the future of public administration and public services. So it was not exactly a new consultancy or a new institute or not even a think tank or an academic research, but it was creating a space for to do co-design, to think in terms of human, to use social design practices, to experiment, as Ada said, to do immersive project on the ground and being sensible. So technically, the year later, in 2008, the idea, how can we do that? And I met a guy. So it's me on the left. I'm much younger on the picture than I am now. I was 40, and I was a former civil servant, and I knew how bureaucracy works, but I don't know how to change it. And I met this guy called Romain Thévenet. He was a social designer, but he was not a traditional designer because he didn't want to do cars or packaging. He wanted to work on social issues. So we have met and we have built La 27e Région together. How did we start? Because that's a nice idea, but how do you technically start real? We started on a small project. We was dealing with transportation facilities in rural area. You know, France is a very rural territory. 70% of the territory is rural. And there is a lack of transportation facilities in many places. But there are something like 2,000 small railway stations that are disappearing because nobody is investing in it. The public policies are investing in big railway stations in Paris, in Lyon, etc. But they don't invest in these small railway stations. Why not redesigning it? Why not building new kind of future for this railway station, but with people, with the people living in the village, not only with the government or with architects, but with the people living there and suffering from the lack of transportation. So this is where we start with the ground project. We worked in a small station in Burgundy, in center of France. And we redesigned this railway station, and it was quite a success. So this is where we start. But progressively, we wanted to be more systemic, to have a larger effect. So the idea came out a few years later, and it was, why not helping government to do this kind of practice themselves? Why not creating transformation capacities, design capacities, social innovation capacities, but within government, so that they could do it in the long term themselves? And we had this project with 12 local governments, including the city of Paris, but also city of Strasbourg, city of Nantes, Région Occitania, etc., etc. And we helped them to create their own 27th region, in a way, their own social innovation lab to reframe their policies. And this project was co-funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies. but it was quite a success, and it gets some award from the Design Management Europe because it was a way of using design in a new way, and it also get an award from the the French Parliament. So it was a way to go more systemic. And now we are there because it's a 15 years stories. And now we're there. We got more than 40 local and national government engaged in our transformation programs. Our model is only based on common goods and cooperation, not business nor competition. So we are not a consultancy. We get funding from government and from foundation, for instance. We have led hundreds of pilot project, creative solutions, and scenarios developed during our programs. And there are many new knowledge in this field of how do you change government by system change, new models of governance. Now it's, since a few years, we are very focused on ecological transition and social justice. I think we are also a source of inspiration for many civil servants, many politicians, many social innovators and students. So it has been a long way since 15 years, but we have seen things moved, and we are quite happy of this success now. I can also, and I'm sure we will have the occasion to speak about failure too, because it's there is no 100% success. Of course, we have we did mistake, and it's not always easy, but I will have the pleasure to share it with you later during the debate. So that is the La 27e.
Yes, thank you very much, Stéphane. I'll switch back to Cantonese. 其實咧 ，Stéphane 嗰個 model 咧，一直對我嚟講係一個好嘅啟發嚟嘅，因為佢一開始嘅時候咧，佢都係同一啲法國嘅地區政府，即係鎮政府啊、市政府啊等等咧，係做一啲嘅小實驗。佢去同啲公務員合作啦，咁咧係做好多好民生嘅問題。然後慢慢咧，發覺係有26個 Région 啦、26個地方政府啦。咁佢個名咧就叫27，即係話佢係第27個啦咁樣。係一個我自己期待咧，真係唔一定係 Met 嘅 Social Lab 嘅，係如果係有一個嘅推動社會創新嘅實驗室喺政府嘅內部，可以推動改變嘅咧，咁係咪真係好美麗咧？咁啊，但係咧，我自己係對 Stéphane 做嘅好細嘅點子咧，係特別有興趣嘅。我喺呢度延伸少少啦，講一個我自己覺得好玩嘅佢一個點子出嚟啦。譬如今日都有一啲嘅朋友出咗去執煙頭嘅係嘛？香港嘅煙頭周圍掉嘅問題非常嚴重，同唔同意啊？大家好似我頭先聽到咧就話咩半個鐘頭咧已經係執咗500個煙頭係嘛？我自己都玩過嘅，我自己都係同一班年青人咧係帶我出去咧喺深水埗一個屋村嗰度，我哋20分鐘已經係執滿咗幾個嗰啲叫紙杯嘅一個煙頭。咁同樣嘅問題咧，其實喺法國好多唔同嘅地方，咁啲煙民咧係將嗰啲煙頭咧係掟落去噴水池啦，係掟落去花槽啦咁樣。咁咧就 Stéphane 咧就係諗咗一種方法咧，佢就係好似做咗，佢係社會設計啊嘛 ，social design 啊嘛，佢係設計咗3個好似你要投票嘅盒仔咁。佢話你認為咧，我哋市政府嘅清潔人員咧去清潔你嘅煙頭咧係5歐羅啊、10歐羅定50歐羅咧咁。咁啲煙民咧就攞住佢嘅煙頭咧就係投票啊，究竟係幾多錢咧咁？呢個嘅遊戲化咗嘅一個咁樣嘅小點子咧，係令到咧個市政府咧係即係令到啲煙民咧係抌咗煙頭。當然呢個係一個推動行為改變嘅一個小點子啦。咁但係咧就我覺得好成功嘅。Stéphane, I hope that there's translation for you because I just paraphrased your cigarette butt experiment in Mulhouse. That I'm really inspired about. So, okay, without further ado, I want to ask our second speaker to talk about his work. 咁喺我身邊咧就有 Jorch 啦，同阿 Chris 同阿 Anushka 一樣咧，其實 Jorch 都係一位年輕朋友，佢都係參加咗啲比賽咧，攞到呢啲 funding。但係我哋喺呢度先唔好講比賽。我覺得Jorch 佢做嘅嘢咧係由零開始咧，都係幾揼石仔嘅，我覺得。 係嘛？咁好，我交嘅時間俾阿 Jorch， 佢亦都用3-4分鐘嘅時間咧，講俾大家聽，究竟佢係有個乜嘢嘅創新咧咁。
好，大家好啊，我係 Jorch。咁我公司咧叫 The 啦。咁即係3年前由零到而家咧，都建立咗好多唔同嘅嘢，都好多故事都好有趣。咁其實我公司係一個上門回收嘅服務啦。咁當時其實遇到個問題係覺得，原來喺香港要做回收都幾困難㗎。我見到香港垃圾問題好嚴重，然之後當中嘅資源好多都係可以回收嘅。咁但係好似我自己為例咧，就發覺原來我要做回收喎，真係要搭幾個站去以前嘅不時垃圾站去處理啦。然之後發現入邊嘅嘢咧好多佢哋都唔收唔到添嘅。咁變咗如果有個人去我屋企做晒所有嘢就好啦。咁當時有個咁嘅諗法係。咁變咗最後咧就嗰個人就變咗係我啦。咁我就做咗一個 app 出嚟，就俾大家去登記，去一個好簡易嘅上門回收服務，係啦。咁我公司目標咧，其實去 cater 幾個方向啦。除咗去回收之外，亦都係貧窮問題啦，亦都想透過一啲盈利咧，去喺香港做一啲保育啦，去令到海洋又好啊，我哋土地都好會靚啲咁。咁我呢個回收服務咧，其實佢其中幾個特色就係好簡易，喺個 app 裏邊做登記，然之後你會學到晒所有香港可以處理嘅回收物啦。我哋會一次過一個籃咧收40種回收物，咁你唔需要做分類啦。你只要其實你唔知嗰樣嘢可唔可以回收都唔緊要嘅，你只要 make sure 係乾淨，你可以俾晒我哋先係啦。咁一個 weekly 嘅 service 咧就會令到啲人嘅回收意願啊，亦都慳咗佢哋好多時間啊，咁係啦。跟住你見到佢個 app 咧，其實 ranking 都唔錯啦。即係其實呢個 app 咧講個故事俾大家知咧，就係我寫嘅咁樣咯。因為嗰陣時啱啱由零開始，其實冇資源啦，亦都冇諗住有個好大嘅投資，咁我就最後就決定，不如我放工嘅時間就去上網學下唔同嘅 app 啊，睇下啲 YouTube 點講啊，咁最後左揼右揼就砌咗一隻功能好唔齊全嘅 app 出嚟，就係咁樣啦。係啦，咁但係公司發展到而家咧，其實都有好多唔同嘅商業合作嘅機會啦。咁亦都譬如P&G 啊、屈臣氏都係我哋嘅客人啦。咁去到可能銀行，大家未必咁認識，可能 BlackRock 啊，或者 LV 啊，咁大家可能會熟悉啲。咁都係我哋而家嘅客人啦。咁去做一啲 office recycling 同埋一啲全港嘅回收服務咁。係啦，咁我哋都好有幸去到唔同嘅媒體又訪問過啦，咁去講我哋嘅故事啦。咁都頭先講到我哋去扶貧嗰一部分咧，其實頭先 Ada 提過我哋喺 Good Seed 咧有個比賽啦。咁其實其中一部分咧就係我哋會聘請好多嘅回收員，咁好大部分係嚟自一啲低收入嘅婦女啦。咁因為佢其中一個特色係佢照顧完小朋友，但係有幾個鐘嘅時間就可以喺自己嗰棟大廈嗰度返工。咁佢賺取我哋而家俾緊大概100幾蚊嘅時薪啦。咁 which is 喺一個情況下，佢帶唔到收入俾屋企，佢可能要食個飯或者去街都要問老公攞錢咧。其實長久落去嗰個家庭地位好低啦。咁我哋希望去解決呢件事，俾佢一個自主收入嘅方法。係啦，咁我哋頭先講過咧，我哋賺到啲錢咧，其實會想喺香港做一啲保育啦。咁我哋上年就喺馬鞍山嗰度買咗30棵嘅樹苗，即係你唔好睇少呢30棵樹苗，都幾貴嘅，使咗2萬幾蚊咁樣啦。係啦，咁去咗同阿妹啦，同一班嘅客人啦，我哋上山咧去種咗一列嘅好高水分嘅樹啊，喺馬鞍山。咁佢有個好處就係成為一個防火帶啦。咁啊喺再山火嘅時候咧，唔會燒到其他，唔會一路延伸過去。咁呢個係我哋其中一樣做嘅嘢啦。係啦，就係咁。
好多謝 Jorch。講咗好多嘢啦。咁原來都係自己揼石仔，包括原來個網，即係嗰個 app 都係自己揼嘅。咁咧就好嗱，我哋咧呢一節咧係講由零開始到而家。咁我就想問兩位講者啦，你哋嗰個零由你哋開始嘅時候咧，其實嗰個動力喺邊度啦？同埋係究竟係做邊一種類？譬如喺 Stéphane 嚟講， 佢就啱啱認識咗一位社會設計師，咁咧就然後跟住咧佢就覺得你要做一個 The 27 Région 呢個機構啦咁。咁啊 Jorch 咧就係佢諗到呢樣嘢，但係香港咁大18區，咁究竟佢覺得要喺邊度開始？又或者係點解嗰個人會覺得係信任佢去裝一大袋嘅垃圾俾佢？佢係由第一步點樣開始？呢個我哋好想知道。So Stéphane, you met your friend, the social designer, Romain, and you started the 27th Région together. So what was your first project together? Did you remember? Which government was it that engaged you, and what sort of problem did you solve for them?
Yeah, our very first project was in a new school. The idea was the creation of a new school, 40 million euros invested in a new high school. And the idea was, why not designing this school with students and with the families instead of building it with the architect and the government only? So we came with this idea, and I remember that what was interested in this project was the cross-generation effect. Let me tell you a little bit. In the team, what was funny is that Romain was 26 or 25, and I was already 37. So I was the old guy in the team. But it was because the idea was to work closely with the director of the school, with the teachers. So it was easier for Romain to work with young students and easier for me to work with the director of the school. So we were complementary in this way. So I realized that when you build a team, and especially a social innovation team, you need to have different people in this team, and including old people like me and younger, because we need to address any kind of, and also you need to have people with different backgrounds. You need to have male and female. You need to have a diversity of people in the team, not just young or not just older, not just male or not just female, not just expert in design or expert in anything. You got to have a diversity of people, and then if you got this diversity, it will be easier to co-design with people to create confidence. So this is the souvenir I get from this very first project, and it was quite successful for a first project. We succeeded in convincing the authorities that building the new school with people will be more efficient. So that was a nice project.
Yes, that sounds very good. And when you talked about having different people in the organization, having old people and young people, I suddenly think of myself. Because as I get older, I always think that maybe I don't belong to make a difference anymore. But now you have assured me that sometimes I think an older person is important as well. 好，咁可以問下嚇 ？Yes. So yeah. 咁我而家問下隔離嘅 Jorch 啦。係啦，你自己揼咗個 app 出嚟，咁點樣開始嘅咧？即係頭一個月係點樣揾到第一個客嘅咧？
第一個客啊，已經唔係開始啦，已經去到好後噶啦。最一個開始第一樣嘢要做就係辭職咯。係啊。
咁你做開啲乜嘢嘅？
我以前做Facebook 嗰啲 marketing 嘅，做一啲
係 Facebook 一間大公司，做
一啲 marketing 嘅工作。
OK，咁穩定人工嘅。穩
定人工嘅，都覺得自己我做得幾好咁樣啦。
咁屋企有冇壓力咁樣？
辭職都冇乜嘅，即係我辭職嗰陣都有人留㗎，咁係咪都叻啊？係咪？係。咁嗰陣時其實即係我覺得辭職其實好長嘅，要真係講成個故事。咁簡單啲去講就係當年有一個唔知點解突然間好細個好後生已經係咁諗遺言啦，即係喺度諗如果我死咧，我有咩好講咧咁樣，即係同啲子孫咁樣。跟住就諗下咁我繼續做呢個 marketing 有幾多個 like， 其實又唔係啲好值得講嘅嘢。 跟住就覺得如果我有呢10年時間去可以投放我嘅精神，咁我想做一啲我好想改變嘅。咁我由細到大對呢個大自然都會有啲情意結咁樣啦，即係好似啲即係睇住個海咧，又覺得好似同人哋對話緊咁樣，好似嗰啲有病嗰啲人咁。係咁，但係 anyway 啦，咁最後就決定要辭職啦，跟住就開始寫一個 app。咁係啊，跟住你好多嘢面對嘅，咁譬如係你阿媽覺得你又喺度唔知做乜啦，跟住又冇錢攞翻嚟啦，跟住係啊啲朋友又唔係好明啦咁樣，咁所以去到第一個客已經係好後噶啦，係啊，跟住我就寫 app， 咁用咗1年嘅時間咧，自己喺屋企度係咁上網學啦，係啊。跟住最後真係完成啦，跟住拍一條片擺上 Facebook 咧，又幾好彩，即係擺上 Facebook 半日之後咧就有第一個客啦。
即係都係要靠翻 Facebook 嘅。
係啊。
OK， 好，咁啊嗰個客係形容下呢個客啊，或者佢喺邊一個社區居住㗎？
我哋開始喺將軍澳嘅，咁所以佢係我 target 一堆屋苑裏邊嘅其中一個客啦。咁去到而家都係我嘅客啦，咁但係我唔知佢知唔知佢係第一個啦，因為我又唔想俾佢知，好似得一個客咁樣咧，咁就冇話俾佢聽呢件事一開始到。
佢而家有呢個榮幸嘅成為你第一個客。我想問下咧，其實我唔知大家知唔知啦。阿 Jorch 咧係收一個月費128蚊，咁然後跟住咧就係可以上門1個禮拜1次咁樣係嘛？咁其實呢個128蚊咧，呢個追問嚟㗎啦。其實係你覺得係貴啊、平啊，定係即係嗰啲客人咧，其實係咪接受呢個價位嘅？
其實咧，我哋啱啱開始嘅時候咧係48蚊1個月嘅，咁啊係一個勁天方夜譚嘅價錢啊！因為講緊我10蚊要上門嘅一個服務，咁除咗係上你屋企拎攞翻去一個地方，咁我哋要有做分揀啦，分揀完再送去全香港大概10零個回收場啦。咁你其實你想像下順豐送一件件30蚊起跳啦，咁你郵差送信都2蚊一封啦，咁變咗你去咁樣比較嘅時候10蚊都幾困難，咁所以我哋玩咗大概6個零月啦，跟住就決定要加價啦。咁都係我哋好多客好想我哋好建議我哋咁做，咁好出奇喎！加完價之後其實多咗30幾個客，跟住睇翻啲 Facebook 啲 comment 咧係以前你唔加價都唔 join 你啊，跟住一加價就即刻join 啊，咁唔好問我邏輯咁樣。咁呢個世界都幾奇特，或者香港咧都係消費者有啲好奇特嘅一啲嘅鼓勵啦，對你嘅一啲嘅鼓勵啦。好，咁我哋翻問阿 Stéphane 先。咁就 Stéphane, you said the first project that you ever did with Roman is the school. You talk to the students and you talk to the director. He talked to the students about how to build a school with a user focus. So and after that, I'm quite sure that you did many projects. But do you remember which was the project that was like a turning point? That really, made your name. And so all the government officials in the 26 regions know about the 27th region. And they will come to you and to commission you to do different projects. So do you still remember which was that turning point project?
Yeah. One was in a library. It was quite the same method as in the schools, that I mentioned before. It was creating a new library, but as the school, not only with the architect, but with the people living there. It became quite a success. And now this project is it's taught in schools, in architect schools, in library schools. I mean, it became a success, a national success. People talking about it in media, etc. So I think this is where we began to be really known. And the other one is around 2014 when we, as you mentioned, the cigarette butts project. When we help all the city to have their own 27th region team, to build their own design team. This is where we really changed the scale, and then people start to come with us, to come to us. So we were not asking to them to work with them, but they were coming to us, and they see us as a source of inspiration. So yeah, we saw this change around 2014.
Now thinking back, do you think that it was because you were a civil servant, so you know how bureaucracy works and how to approach the different departments and the right people? Do you think that this background as a civil servant has helped you at all?
Yeah, I think it was very useful, but I'm a bit jealous of Jorch, because Jorch had this great idea when he was young, because he's still young. I must admit that at least in the first part of my professional career, I knew nothing about government. I did not go in administration schools or political schools. I was working for marketing and media, but not at all in public services. And suddenly I fall in love with public services years later. It was around, I was 35, around 35. And then I began to be really interested in administration, because I was interested to see how it works behind the scene, not front of us, but behind the scene. How does it work for real on the ground? I think that when I started to work with the public sector or with government or within government, then I realized that it was my interest, and that was my passion. But I just want to mention that nobody in my family works in government. I'm not, and my mother is very find very strange that suddenly I became interested in the public sector. I was surprised too, to be honest.
Yes, thank you. I think all mothers are very concerned about their sons. 好，咁啊問阿 Jorch 同樣一個問題啦。咁啊第一個客喺將軍澳，佢亦都唔知道自己係第一個客。咁然後跟住咧就你都做咗啲嘢咧，好辛苦啦。因為阿 Jorch 講俾我聽咧，有一次佢自己收咗一袋嘢，佢就想落去喵喵啦。咁我想話俾你 ，Harold 尋日都嚟咗我哋呢度做分享嘅。咁但係咧佢又唔識落去喵喵啦，咁啊自己又攞住好重嘅嘢啦。咁其實都係好艱辛，即係同阿 Facebook 做 marketing 係真係完全兩件事啦，應該。咁但係咧，你都做咗3年啦，係咪？去到即係其實由一開始嘅時候，去到邊個位你覺得係 turning point， 同埋你覺得話，咦，我都係要繼續做落去，我唔可以放棄喎咁。
Turning point 其實最大應該就係加價咯，因為去到一個位，即係嗰陣時係48蚊一個月啦，咁其實佢真係賺幾多使幾多。點解會變咗頭先行入貓坊呢個故事呢？其實就係因為我又唔想蝕錢啦，咁我就咧搭車即係搭巴士入去貓坊。咁但係大家要知道咧，貓坊其實去到元朗咧要轉乘一架巴士咧，唔知 K60幾咁樣啦。咁咧但係我去到個巴士站等到車咧，佢唔俾我上，因為我太多1代2代跟住我啦。咁係啦，跟住我去到嗰下咧，拒絕我上咧，我就覺得好唔抵啊！如果喺呢度 call 都又要使100幾蚊咁樣，因為真係一條大直路。咁我最後咧就行入去咯。咁行咗40幾分鐘啦，嗰陣時係30零度咁樣，跟住係即係正常人出汗咧係喺一個 U 型咁樣噶嘛。跟住我係成件係衫係已經冇晒未變色嘅位咯，係啊，即係咁濕噶嘛。係跟住個 turning point 就係加咗價，咁我哋都同一時間請咗第一次請 full time 啦，買咗架車啦，咁變咗成個 model 營運落去個動力大咗好多，咁亦都有信心咗好多。
唔知啦，即係就咁行入去喵喵啦，都已經好辛苦，但係仲拎住即係2大袋嘅回收物。咁即係呢個都係即係你後生，所以好掂咁。好啦，不如我哋問下兩位呢，其實喺呢個過程裏邊一定會有一啲嘅低點啦，即係創業係高山低谷噶嘛。咁不如我哋問下呢個問題。So Stéphane, let's talk about the low points of the 27th region. You mentioned before that you want to share with us some of the failures. So as you remember now, looking back, any points, any low points in this career that you find that yes, maybe you should drop the idea? Any failure points?
Many failures. I would need a whole workshop to describe all the failure we had, but let me describe just one. We nearly collapsed 3 years after we started. We nearly had to stop our activities, and the reason why is that we realized that our funding model, our business model, was not the good one, and we did much more things than the money we get. So we were not able to pay ourselves anymore, etc. So it happened suddenly in a few months, and then we realized, and it became a lesson for us, that every 3 or 4 years you need to reframe your business model. You need to reframe your theory of change. You need to reframe your model, because if you don't do it, things are changing, the environment is changing, the context is changing, and it can change faster than you are changing. So yeah, we nearly disappeared, and then we did many. We suddenly realized that we need to find a new way to fund our project, etc. It took a few months, and then things went better. But yes, my lesson for that is that you need to think about your business model on a regular basis, and to be ready to change it over the years.
Okay. May I ask a follow-up? So how did your theory of change? So what is it now that is different from before?
Yeah. Initially, it was very. It was. I mean, we changed it in 2 or 3 ways. Now it's much more based on system change. At the very beginning, it was more co-designing things with people. But now we see things in a broader way of change, and notably system change. Second, our activities is much more aligned with climate change, fighting against climate change, improving biodiversity, etc., than we were at the initially when we started. And also, we are much more working on how do you change the power. At the very beginning, we were much more about innovation methodology, innovation techniques, etc. Now we know that if you want to transform things, you need to change the power, the way the way people take decision. How can you open the governance of things? How can you open the power and make sure that the power is more distributed? So yes, I think we have changed 3 times our theory of change in 15 years. And we are already changing it now.
Again. So yeah, I will ask you about that later. Let me ask Jorch now. 3年啦，做咗3年。頭先就講 turning point 即係往好嘅諗咧，就係加咗價，多咗客戶。咁就係低點咧。有冇一啲好失敗嘅位，即係你係覺得唔得啦，唔想做落去啦咁咧？
其實好多嘅，都好認同頭先Stéphane 去講，佢話佢即係其實每一個我諗都係差唔多嘅，即係我聽過好多唔同嘅創業嘅人去講咧，其實failure 係真係超級多，咁而佢唯一咁多個就緊落去嘅人嘅共通點咧，即係有啲人係可能好勤力啊，有啲人就好醒啊，有啲人好早起身啊，其實所有人都有唔同嘅特性，唯一嘅共通點就係冇放棄咯。咁我自己咧其實都由開始到而家，其實當然有好多嘅失敗啊，好多嘅低點啦。咁無論係一開始即係好辛苦、好體力嘅時候咧，其實人會好想放棄嘅。即係我記得嗰陣時，成日咧出去回收啦，跟住搞到係12點幾 夜晚12點幾先至完成最後一個，跟住我揸車翻到去到觀塘嘅時候，咁其實嗰陣時係即係你諗下係好夜凌晨12點幾，成個屋苑咧好靜嘅，咁但係你發現咧有一袋嘢咧擺極都擺唔到上車，即係你點砌都仲爭一袋咁，跟住嗰下係好絕望啦，好唔開心啦，因為覺得即係連前邊都擺埋啦，都擺唔到啦，跟住已經係好靜啦，成個即係你會覺得嗰一刻係最孤獨嘅，你會覺得啊全世界都瞓晒啦。我喺度做緊乜嘢咧？咁樣嗰陣時係有一下係我都唔知自己做緊乜咁。係啊，跟住去到即係一路會出現嘅，唔好諗住突然間會冇晒。即係 even 而家我哋上次去做一啲譬如揾 marketing 揾宣傳嘅方法，去諗住做一啲通函啦，跟住又使咗可能2萬蚊去做一啲郵遞嘅通函，跟住諗住冇死啦，個個都睇到咁。咁點知最後咧好似多翻咗5個客咁樣啦。咁即係你會不停遇到好多嘅挫敗嘅，咁但係你就要不停去做咯，即係少啲去太多嘅唔好諗咁多咯，不停去試下做嘅其他嘢。
好啊，其實冇失敗過呢，其實就唔係一個成功嘅創業者。我哋大家都知道呢個道理，但係你真係失敗嗰刻呢，其實就真係好辛苦嘅。我而家想開放呢，早啲開放呢，我哋一啲嘅一齊討論啦。咁我哋呢度仲有好幾十位朋友啦，線上亦都有一啲朋友。大家有冇一啲嘅反思？其實大家好多謝大家支持呢一個山腳有聚，由尋日去到而家，我哋聽咗4場，都聽咗好多唔同嘅好精彩嘅好多人物嘅自己嘅分享啦。大家除咗問 Stéphane 或者問阿 Jorch 一啲嘅問題呢，自己嘅一啲嘅諗法都可以分享一下喎。等我望下有冇人好想分享先。我哋住可以預備咪嘅喎。Louise? Oh, you have a question for Stéphane? You have a question for Stéphane? OK. 大家有冇啊？有嘅。OK， 係啊，原來係阿 Chris 嚟嘅。咁啊，我哋交個咪俾阿 Christopher 啊，你舉舉手，係中間。
可能都係好緊，因為頭先好有共鳴啊。因為我又係你拉住垃圾，我記得我係拉住啲生果喺偏遠鄉村咁樣搭車搭船咁樣去出去工場咁樣。但係我有其實好少問題嘅，純粹想好奇咧，你係點樣發現，或者你個觸覺喺邊度嚟發現啲人係肯俾錢去做回收？因為佢有你做呢樣嘢之前，好難想像係會有人俾月費，即係對我自己嚟講，好難想像有人肯俾月費去幫佢收回收嘅垃圾嘅。
有好嘅問題嚇。
其實我覺得好大程度上係因為我自己咯，即係我其實你去比較唔同，即係我自己要去回收嘅時候，我發現原來要搭好多個站，每個星期去有好多 effort 喺入邊。咁其實如果有人幫我做呢樣嘢，我可以完全唔使理嘅話咧，我自己都幾肯俾嘅咁。咁但係 even 而家都成日都有人問嘅，即係好似我前日即係有個訪問，跟住off cam 之後嗰個攝影師話啲人洗乾淨俾你，仲要俾錢你咁好咁樣啦。跟住我覺得係跟住我就同佢講，我話好啊，咁我洗乾淨，我俾錢你嚟我屋企收啦咁樣。咁佢就靜咗啦咁。係啊，咁咧其實唔理解嘅人係有嘅，咁但係我相信你會揾到你嘅客咯，因為當你 provide 緊一個好嘅 service 係真係解決緊一啲人嘅 pain point 嘅時候，佢願意去用錢又好，用好多嘢去 support 你。
好啊，多謝 Christopher 呢個問題。我睇下在座嘅朋友有冇其他問題可以問 Stéphane 或者係阿 Chris。有阿里先啦，然後金阿里
係我想問下咧，係由你哋有個 idea 啦，咁跟住可能Jorch 咧就係用咗1年時間去揼個 app， 咁揼 app 嗰一段時間其實係冇收入噶嘛，即係嗰個係 project 開始前嘅開始喎。咁Stéphane都係啦，即係佢 認識咗佢嘅朋友啦，跟住由佢認識佢嘅朋友到佢接第一個 job 嗰個之間嗰一段時期，究竟係你哋點樣準備呢件事啦，或者係點樣令自己係有信心我可以繼續落去，唔會一路準備，但係最後係得個吉嘅咧咁咯。
係啊，呢個創辦期去到第一個 project 嗰度成年咧冇收入嘅，咁靠邊個啊？
所以我嗰陣時練咗光合作用咯。係啊，大家想學可以揾我，轉頭可以分享下。但係都係㗎，咁你冇收入，咁你可能本身都可能儲咗啲錢。咁我本身唔大使嘅，我冇乜物慾嘅，即係我唔會點買嘢。咁睇下黐下屋企食下飯啊咁樣咯。咁都係咁啊。咁都唔係，即係你會變咗。我都幾即係開心，就係我媽嗰2年係冇收我家用啦。咁真係冇咗好多壓力咧。其實又感受到佢嘅支持，咁都係好開心。
Stéphane, I don't know whether you got the question, and it is as follows. So you resigned as a civil servant and you started the 27 region with Roman. And so there must be a time gap before you got the first project. Was it difficult during that time gap because you didn't really have a stable salary anymore?
Yeah, but what I did not mention is that between being a civil servant and being running La 27e Région, I became a consultant and I was paid to imagine La 27e Région by the regional association organization. And I think this is what you got to find and to develop when you are social innovators, to find intermediary fundings. It can be also funding from the unemployment welfare system just to get the time to test your project. So there was no moment where I was not paid for the project, but I was paid differently depending on the time. But I started with consulting money to build this project. And then when we tested it during a few months, even during a few years, then all the partners around the project said, okay, now it's worth funding it for real and putting money in this and build a non-profit association to run it. But when you build this kind of project, you got to think in terms of different steps to make sure that you can live, that you can make a living of it. So in my case, yeah, it started with consulting money, consulting funding before I resign and as a consultant and create this association. But yes, it's like a sport, you know. When you're doing social innovation, you got to be tactical in terms of funding and to find even if you got a big project, you got to find 10% of the budget of this big project to start it, and then to find new money to do it until the end. But there are plenty of possibilities to do.
Right. Thank you. I think because you have experience already, that's why you can be a consultant and also feel your way as to how to start your social innovation consultancy.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I'm an old social innovator compared to Jorch. Jorch is a young guy. I really started this project being a consultant or a civil servant at 35, so I already have some experience in my case.
Right, and Jorch, you're still in your 20s. 廿幾啦係嘛？係咯，廿幾歲，大把時間嘅。好，咁咧我見金有個問題嘅，而家冇問題啦。OK， 我而家呢度咧係線上咧嚇。哦 ，OK， 唔緊要，我哋一陣間先至翻嚟你嗰度好嘛？因為我見到兩位多謝一啲線上嘅朋友啦，咁佢去問一啲問題，咁咧就其實 Stéphane 同阿 Jorch 咧都可以答嘅。第一題咧就話，如果一個嘅啱啱畢業嘅大學生咧係想去做呢啲社會創新咧，其實係有咩渠道嘅咧？咁樣，咁不如 Jorch 你答先啦。你嗰陣時都做咗幾年嘢啦，係嘛？但係你想像一下，啱啱大學畢業能唔能夠做社會創新咧？
我嗰陣時其實都唔係做1年啦，啱啱到，咁所以叫做有啲錢嘅，都唔係。
其實聽落都真係唔係咁多
係啊，
㗎。
跟住但係我如果行翻轉頭，其實因為我成個創業過程其實都冇用過啲funding或者一啲資源嘅，咁你其實諗翻轉頭有啲傻嘅咁樣咯。即係其實你有好多，即係我後尾先知啦，有好多唔同嘅比賽又好啊，一啲seed 嘅 funding 啊，都係容易去拎嘅。咁其實你大學生嚟講，可能譬如有啲機構有啲funding係10萬嘅，咁都幾容易拎嘅。咁你作為一個即係好初期，可能 app 啊或者啲 development 嘅嘢都係幫到手嘅。
Stéphane, in France, how can a fresh university graduate get involved in social innovation? Now, I remember that when I last met you, you wanted to start a school, a street school, a school, let's call it the Buissonnière, right? So this is for fresh grads. Can you talk a little bit about how young people in France can join social innovation?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing because when you are a young student, when you leave your school in design or social design or university, etc., and shifting directly to a job in a service design agency or social design agency, or to build a startup, there is a miss of something. You miss a step where you can still learn and test, like something like a test bed. When we did project like I mentioned in library or in railway station, in this project we always had young students with us in our team, so they were learning with senior people. There was also this mix of senior and junior people. Senior people like me or who were older, who had some experience, and junior people who were just out from the school and they were still learning. They were fresh, courageous, but they were learning. And we try hard to develop this model to make sure that there was this combination of learning for young students just out from the school. But we did it on our own, and it's not enough. So sometimes, yes, the idea would be to develop something that would be not exactly a school, but a non-school, something after the school where you can test for real your new job, your new capacities with a senior team. So it's still missing in France. There are some initiatives. For instance, there is a project called SAS, S-A-S, in a design school. It's a mayor who is running it. It's an elected people who is a mayor from a city. And he has built an association where he engaged young students from design school to work on social projects. So this is this kind of buissonnière, non-school project that we'd love to develop, but it's difficult to find the money to find it. And sometimes I dream we could do it with you, Ada, and the international networks, but there is a need for test position for new students.
Yeah.
Able to work on the real ground with senior people.
Right. Stéphane, I think, having a school for the young social innovators, I think it's also needed in Hong Kong. For fresh grads, maybe it's not a whole year, maybe like 10 weeks, so that they can join real-life projects. And I guess Social Lab is one, but Social Lab doesn't really have the educational side yet. So perhaps this is the next step. Okay, so 我差唔多完咯喎。Freddie 有最後一個問題係嘛？俾 Freddie 問最後一個問題。仲有 Louis， 忽然間咁多人舉手，好犀利。OK， 好 ，Freddie， 中間可唔可以俾到中間？係啦，中間呢行呢位男士。好 ，Freddie 請精簡少少，唔該。
Thank you。我記得尋日我哋傾咗一個話題咧，Louis 講得好好。尋日我哋傾咗話題話一個 social innovation 嘅 project 去到幾時先會完嘅咧？一個實驗。咁Louis 尋日就話，as 一個 social innovation practitioner， 只要個事業開始改變到人嘅 norms 同埋 habit 咧，咁佢就會 move on 去另外一個 problems。咁George 頭先話，咦？ 其實已經達到啲目標咯，啲人開始俾128蚊 ，which 政府都做唔到。
全香港700萬人喎，Freddie，佢都仲未，你係咪客戶啊？你唔係啊嘛，係咪？
係啊。咁我想問下，譬如一個年青嘅創業家啦，譬如你個目標會唔會係去到邊個位？你覺得咦改變到人嘅行為咯？我開始 move on 去做另一樣嘢。
即係可以再揾第啲工係嘛？呢個好問題嚟嘅。OK，
好難答喎呢個。我覺得如果我嘅目標係唔使做咯，即係可能係即係我最短期目標當然係expand 我嘅 surface area， 因為其實即係收到好多嘅客人，佢哋會覺得我其實唔係住你個區域啊，可唔可以快啲 expand 到？咁呢啲我一路都收到嘅，其實都有個感覺好想快啲起碼50%、70% 嘅 cover 啦咁。咁但係你話我係咪會即係達成啦？而公司可以自己去 run 嘅時候，咁我應該會去玩咯。
即係請個 CEO 啦，係嘛？然後跟住你就作為創辦人 founder 咧，其實 founder 有兩種，一嚟就係好黐身嘅，覺得嗰個係個親生仔咁啊，唔肯放手。但係另外一種咧，就好似阿 Jorch 咁話，係我去玩啦咁。我希望你做到呢件事啊！我哋應該一陣俾啲掌聲佢，希望佢做到呢件事。OK，咁我哋俾Louise 問最後一個問題啦。So Louise, you can ask the last question.
Thank you. Bonjour, Stéphane. You can't see me, but I've sent you a photo of you on the screen. It's a question for both of you because I think a lot of people involved in this work, people always ask, so where are you going? Where do you want to be? What's the future? I find it a very difficult question to answer myself. And this session is called From Where You Got to Where You Are Today. But I'm really interested in where you both want to be in, or what you want to change in 10 years. If your work is successful, how will you know? So it's a horrible question. I don't like people asking me this question, so I will ask it to you both.
Great question. Where do you want to be in a few years' time, Stéphane?
I remind you that I'm 54, so 10 years means 64. I think, when we are working on changing government, the good news is that this never ends. So there is a job for plenty of generation of people after la 27e Région. And I think that maybe one of my dreams would be that la 27e Région exists no more as an organization, but more as a new coalition of organization, and we would have merged in a larger project with other organizations. And I'm sure you know what I mean, Louise, when I say that, because I think you two think that we are no more useful alone, and that when we are trying to tackle such big issues like changing government, there is only a coalition to make it. So my dream would be that la 27e Région exists no more in 10 years, but it's a new name, and it's merged in a larger project, maybe with you at Social Innovation Exchange, maybe with other people, but that we have built something bigger and larger and international, if possible.
係啊，如果係10年之後冇咗27th Region， 即係話我諗係唔同嘅政府啦，佢哋自己內部都有好多嘅社會創新，都唔使一個外間嘅中介機構去幫手啦。其實呢個都係一個非常好嘅願景嚟嘅。咁我就希望 Stéphane 能夠圓佢個夢，我亦希望 Jorch 咧好快可以去環遊世界。咁咧，我哋呢一節咧就咁樣結束，可唔可以大家俾啲掌聲俾我哋喺熒幕上面嘅 Stéphane同埋喺台上面嘅 Jorch？Jorch 你先落台休息一下。